Hey there, gentle people. Thank you for joining me for another video. This is Loy here, and as always, I appreciate your time and I appreciate your presence. Before we get started on this video today, I wanted to make something absolutely clear. This video in no way, shape, or form constitutes any legal advice. I'm a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer. So if you need a lawyer to go over any of these things with you, then definitely get yourself a lawyer because, again, I'm a lawyer, but not yours. Here's the deal. I wanted to talk about copyright registration for visual artists, as well as a particular incident which prompted me to make the video in the first place. So on the left brain hand, I'm going to talk to you about copyright protection, lawyer perspective, and then on the right brain hand, from the artist's perspective, I'm going to talk to you about the idea in context. So you'll get the theory in terms of the law, as well as the context in what particular instance this might be applicable. So if you see me look down at my notes, I just want to make sure, I'm gonna get everything, I'm gonna get the full 100. And translation for my non-Jamaican peeps, I just want to make sure that I cover everything. So if you see me looking down, clearly I'm just looking at my notes. All right. So copyright protection is protection provided by US law to authors. And don't get the term authors twisted. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have written something or that you're some kind of writer. It just means that basically you created the work. Once you're an author, you have exclusive right to do certain things. You have exclusive right to prepare copies. You can make derivative works. You can distribute. You can sell. Those are some of the exclusive rights granted to you as the owner of a piece of creative work. All right. If you're not the owner, obviously, you're going to have to get permission from the owner to do these things. And if you've derived rights from the owner and now that thing becomes yours, then you have the right to do those things as well. So you're automatically protected, or your work is automatically protected once it's created. It's considered fixed by copyright law. You don't have to register with the Copyright Office for something to be considered copywritten, and your work does not have to be published. So it doesn't have to be out for publication for it to be protected by copyright law. But if you want your day in court and you want solid proof and evidence, my advice is always to get your stuff copywritten. And if you can't do it yourself, then definitely get a lawyer to take care of it for you. Publication basically means that you are distributing your work to the public for sale, for lease, for lending, or you're giving it to somebody to display publicly. If you have a single existing piece of artwork, even if it's sold through traditional methods like a gallery, that single piece of work is not necessarily considered out there for publication. But once you start to reproduce, distribute, make copies, then it kind of crosses over into the realm of publication. And publication does get a little bit tricky because there are some pieces of work that do require mandatory registration with the Copyright Office, but that's a whole other story. One of the things that I really wanted to explain is this concept of, oh, somebody stole my ish, somebody took my ideas. You cannot copyright ideas. You cannot copyright inspiration. You cannot copyright creativity. You cannot copyright discoveries. You cannot copyright principles. Those are things that you don't have any legal right to. No, hold up. If you have something like some kind of scientific formula or process for invention or something like that, then by all means, that's a separate branch of law called patent law, and you get a patent lawyer to help you sort through those things. It's all scientific and technical. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is copyright for visual artists. So you have something two-dimensional, three-dimensional that forms within the realm of fine art or visual art. Again, you cannot copyright concepts and ideas. And the reason why I decided to do the video is this. I went online the other day and I saw somebody post a piece of artwork that looked exactly like something that I had done before and months ago. And let me tell you, it's something that I've been working on for a while now. So when I saw it, like my first reaction, like, you know, the ego kicks in. And, you know, when I say ego, I don't mean like, hoo-hoo, I think I'm like hoity-toity. No, absolutely nothing like that. But ego in terms of Carl Jung we won't even get too deep into the psychology. But anyway, so the ego kicks in and I'm like, oh my goodness, this stuff looks exactly like what I've been working on. This woman stole my stuff. And, you know, of course, all of that is running through my head. And then I had to pause and check myself for a minute because, of course, the lawyer part of me kicks in and, you know, tells my artist self, like, slow your roll. So at first I was kind of taken because I'm like, that looks exactly like my stuff. And if you can kind of see behind me here, this is one of the pieces that I worked on a couple of months ago, and it's the background is acrylic, and then I have paper, and I have what looks like horizontal and vertical stitches on the paper. Let me explain the concept. In Japan, they have this idea, this design technique called sashiko, and sashiko is basically a running stitch, and what they've historically used it for in Japan is basically to patch clothes. So, you know, if you have like a jacket and the elbow is worn, or, you know, somewhere on the neck, then you use this running stitch. You use the sashiko stitch to basically patch your clothes, or, you know, your pillowcases or your sheets or whatever the case is. Because in Japan they have this concept called matenai, and matenai basically means that they regret waste in any form. So everything has value, even things that would appear old and used and brought down to other people. The Japanese people find importance in that. So again, the concept of sashiko is this running stitch, and the stitches that I like to use are the vertical and the horizontal stitches. The vertical stitches are called tate jima, and then the horizontal stitches are called yoko jima. So I kind of took that idea in, that concept of sashiko, and said, you know, how can I express this on, you know, using paper and using paint. And for me, what that meant is I wasn't going to use, like, I know how to embroider, but I wanted to basically put my spin on it. So I took the idea of the tatejima and the yokojima and basically replicated it using a white gel pen, those Sakura gel pens. So I put the little stitches and I just did, you know, different patterns over and over again. And I'm going to show you a couple pieces that I worked on. So this is the first one I did, and it's watercolor, and I use bleach on there as well to kind of like lighten the places in the middle. So this right here, as you can see, the paper has this very rugged edge, and this is paper that I made, whole other video, but I love to make paper. So I use cotton rag and junk mail and all kind of junk paper, and, you know, go through the whole process. So you know, that's another part of where the inspiration came in, because the paper that I had, you know, is considered old, is considered junk. And I'm like, you know, how can I take that concept and turn it into something useful, something that still has value, and, you know, pull in the idea and the concept of sashiko. So some of the other pieces of paper that I made with the design, this is one of them here. All right, so we have what looks like stitches, but again, they're actually the Sakura white gel pen. I'm going to show you a couple other pieces. I kind of took the idea and started playing with it in terms of shape. So I have some there with some circles. And I have this one here. Well, actually, I meant for it to be looked at like this. Started putting some triangles together, but again, the whole concept of sashiko and the running stitches and the tatejima and the yokojima. And I love circles, so of course I had to do something with some circles. So, and again, these are all watercolor with the Sakura gel pen, and they're on paper that I made. And I made the paper and, you know, put cotton rag in there because I wanted to give it kind of a feel almost like fabric. And, you know, we know paper is fiber and cloth is fiber. So that was basically where that whole idea came from. So here's another one that I did. And then I also kind of pulled the idea out into this crazy mess here, but, you know, it got blurred in a couple places. So that's that. Oh, and there are two more pieces. I have these hanging up so they're in frame, so hopefully the glare is not too bad. So this is one of the pieces here. There you go. All right. And as you can see, the horizontal and the vertical stitches from Sashiko. And I use the blues a lot because in Japan it's, you know, it's done on a lot of denim and fabric that has been dyed with indigo. And here's another one, more of a bluish grayish color, but again the whole concept of the Tatajima and Yokojima with the horizontal and the vertical stitches. All right, so back to copyright registration. When me say the woman put our things out there will look exactly like mine, I was like, Houston, we have a problem. Translation, I was highly irked because I thought maybe at some point in time this woman saw my pieces, some of the work that I had put out there, and basically copied it. And again, the lawyer part of me had to kind of like put the artist part of me in check and be like, look, I don't own Sashiko, I don't own the concept, I don't own the ideas, they're not mine. These things are like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old. So here's the deal. If she had taken this exact design and put it out there as hers, then Houston, we would have a problem. Or if she took something like this and I saw this pattern and these colors and, you know, something looking exactly like this, these pieces are my original work. These pieces are copywritten. I am the original author of these pieces, but I don't own the idea. I don't own the concept. So if she wants to take, let me see. If she wants to take this idea and, you know, turn the stitches in a different way or shape or whatever the case is, she's absolutely free to do that. Because here's the deal, you do not own your artistic expression, so you don't have exclusive right to your artistic expression. So if somebody likes your idea and wants to do something and you can look at it and say, oh, I was a person who had that idea, then, you know, pretty much tough cookies, because you can't copyright an idea or a concept, okay? Not unless it's something original. If I saw something that looked exactly like this, then, you know, like I said, that would be a copyright issue there. Something else I wanted to talk to you about from Japan is a concept called boro, and what that basically means is they will take fabric, so fabric that comes from something, so either it's an item of clothing or a sheet or a pillowcase or curtains, something that cannot be used for its original intended purpose anymore, and they basically cut them up and patch them together to make something new. So some very kimono style looking stuff, and again it's called boro, B-O-R-O. So I decided, how can I put the concept of boro and sashiko together, kind of take it in and, you know, make it marinate, and how can I express that creatively myself? What is my artistic expression? And I came up with this particular thing, and I have two of them I'm going to show you. This is one here. I think this is the first one that I did, and again this is also from paper that I made, and I kind of crumpled it as well because I wanted it to have kind of the texture of fabric, and people who have seen it think that these are like actual stitches on fabric, but again they're pen, and I basically wanted it to look like the sashiko stitches. So the concept of sashiko and boro together, that was basically my interpretation of it. And here's another piece that I did as well. So the yellow pieces actually were a piece that I was working on, and I never too like how it looks, so I kind of put the paper in the blender, and yeah, basically this is what came out after I finished making the paper. So again, the whole concept of boro, you know, taking pieces, scraps of cloth that can't be used for their original intended purpose, and putting them together to come up with something new. And the whole concept of matanai in Japan, of not wasting anything. So a lot of this is just old junk mail and, you know, stuff I used to make this paper and come up with these designs. People, I don't own this concept. These are my original pieces here. These are copywritten. This is my work. But if you see this and you like it and you want to replicate it, feel free, go ahead. This is not my original idea. Boro is not mine, and sashiko is not mine. There are ideas and concepts out there for the world. So if you see somebody that has put something out there that looks very similar to something that you've done, it does get kind of tricky, and in some cases it might be considered a derivative work, but with regards to general ideas, you cannot copyright ideas and concepts and discoveries. They're pretty much out there for the world to use. It does get a little bit tricky, it does get a little bit complicated, so if you're in a situation where you're not too sure, definitely seek the advice of a lawyer to help you out. Ideas are out there to be used. If you like these ideas, if you like the sashiko, if you like the boro, if you want to do what I've done here and come up with your way to express it, feel free, go ahead, because we don't own the concepts. All right, so that is what I wanted to talk to you about today. I wanted to explain the copyright for visual artists, and then I also wanted to put it in some kind of context for you so you understand how the whole thing plays out. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, definitely put them down below, and I will see about getting back to you and making sure I can answer any questions that you have. Oh, check out the podcast. I'm going to put another episode up this week, so I would really appreciate it. There is a link in the description box below. Again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your presence. I really appreciate you. Peace.